am the maker behind Mrs S Craft Corner. I live in Nottingham with my husband and our 2 boys, Oliver who is 10 and Joseph who is 8, and our dog Finn, he's 5. Bit of backstory. So I was taught to knit by my nonna when I was about 7 years old. I was staying with my nonna and grandpa over the summer holidays, and she took me down to the local yarn shop in the village where they lived, and picked out some beautiful pink yarn with some pink needles, and when we got back she taught me how to knit, and since then it's been a love of mine that's stayed with me for quite a while. I mean, I have dabbled in and out of it over the years, losing interest and getting it back again, but that fully fledged came back in 2019 when I was watching The Crazy Sock Lady, and it was sort of introduced to me that you could have more than one whip at a time, which I find helps me because I can get bored doing the same project over and over again, and that would be when I would stop. I'd get bored with a project and feel like I can't do anything else until that's done, and then that would be it. But now that I can flip between different ones depending on what I'm feeling like and what mood I'm in, means that, yeah, it's been a steady incline of my interest. I also do crochet occasionally. I learnt that through YouTube videos when I was pregnant with Oliver, and that took a bit of getting used to. When you're so used to knitting and holding the tension for that, it's like a completely new thing. So I did get frustrated for a bit, but I persevered, and yeah, I crochet now. Occasionally I will cross stitch. Again, I'll go in and out of that, and I got an embroidery kit for Christmas this year from my husband, so that's my first go of that. I'm about halfway through, so I'll show that in whips in a bit. But yeah, I find with embroidery and cross stitch, because the lighting's got to be so good and you've got to focus on it, that it's not always something I reach for at the minute, because I can knit whilst I'm watching the telly now. Yeah, so I will start with what I'm wearing today. This is the Pink Fizz by Andrea Mowry. I'll stand up so you can have a look at the beautiful lace panels that are on either side of the front and again on the back. And it's got a, you can't see from this angle, there's a split hem, high-low, 2x2 rib. I knit this to pattern, but I finished this a while ago, so I don't recall what needles or anything that I was used, but I followed the pattern. Generally speaking, I'm quite an even knitter, and I can just pick up a pattern and use recommended needles and have no issues. So this was knit with a strand of the Drops alpaca in the natural shade and a strand of a pink wool from Woolly Knit. Yes, it's a nice soft powder pink kind of colour. It did take a few washes to get it soft enough for me to wear more consistently, because to begin with, after I first blocked it, it was quite scratchy around my neck and I'd end up with like a red rash. But yeah, after a few times blocking it, it's so much softer and it fits lovely, and yeah, it's one of my favourite jumpers that I've made so far. I think that's everything about this. So going from this on to finished objects, I only have one finished object this time, and they are the customisable fingerless gloves, and they are here. So as the previous ones, I started it with a 3x1 rib until going into the stockinette portion as we do the thumb gusset increases, 2x1 rib on the thumb, and then back to a 3x1 rib to finish off the hand. Yeah, and these were knit on a 3.25mm needle. I used a strand of the Drops Alpaca, which is the same as what I used in this jumper, so the off-white natural colour, along with a strand of Drops Kid Silk mohair, held double to make them nice and squishy and give them a bit of extra warmth. And these will be gifted to my mother-in-law. Now that they're done and I've shown them on the podcast, I can pass them on to her. Yeah, so the pattern was by June E. Brown, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And obviously, because it's customisable, you can add in your own colourwork chart if you want to, like I did, changing the rib. It's just the basic numbers for a fingerless knit, and I found that very useful. I can see on the lead up to Christmas I will probably be making a few more as gifts, but we shall see. So after that we have my works in progress. So the first work in progress I'll show you is my Advent flax. The pattern I'm using is the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits. However, I'm not doing it in just fingering weight, I'm holding it double, just because I wanted to tone down the advent calendar, but also make sure it goes as far as possible so I can get a whole sweater out of the advent calendar, because I don't want to play yarn chicken. So this is what I have so far. So I can't see what I'm showing you now, so hopefully that's all in shot. So that's up to day 11 on the body, and then day 11 on the second sleeve, and I'm up to almost finished day 14 on the first sleeve. I've only got a tiny little nugget left of 14 before the next colour goes on. So I am knitting that on 4mm needles, so it's only a quarter of a size up from what the pattern recommends. I am a 38-inch bust, and I'm following the instructions for the 39-inch bust, but obviously as I'm holding the yarn double and using bigger needles, there'll be a lot more positive ease than the pattern suggests. And to work out how I'm splitting my yarn between the body and the sleeves, to begin with, for the upper portion I've did 5 grams for one sleeve, 5 grams for the other, and then the rest into the body. But now as I've started on the decreases, I've reduced it to 4 grams per sleeve and then the rest in the body. And I'm planning on, for the sleeves, because this is quite tight, I'm thinking I'd quite like a bigger sleeve opening than the one that this one is, just to make it that bit cozier. And I was undecided for what I was going to do with the finish in the body, but I was watching the Knitting Traditions podcast the other day, and she's just knit a basic sweater for her to go skiing in, and it was grey, but she's done it as a split hem, but on the bottom of the hem she's curled it round with short row shaping, and I just thought that that was stunning, and so I'm planning on giving that a go. So fingers crossed I managed to work that out with some jiggery pokery and get a similar sort of aesthetic as she got. Yeah, so slowly plodding along with that, obviously because it's so big and having to work out and wind up each individual advent calendar 20 gram mini. That's something that I do only do whilst I'm at home. It's not something I can take with me like to hospital or out and about. So yeah, I think that's everything about that one. The next one is the Ava shawl. I think it's Ava. And this is what I'm knitting for Helen of Giddy Yarns, or the Giddy Knits podcast. For her sample, this has to be back to her by the 16th of March, as I believe that's just before she's going to the East Anglia Yarn Festival. and I had made a start of this because, as I said in the last one, I was going to knit on this whilst Oliver was having his kidney test, and I had done a fair amount, but afterwards I felt like my gauge was too tight, and I washed and blocked how far I'd got, and I was having to stretch it within an inch of its life to get it anywhere close to gauge. So I had to unravel all of that and start again. This is where I am. I'll try and show. So I've done 4 stripes so far. On the next garter ridge panel, like this one. So then there'll be the 5th stripe, a bit more of the garter panel, and then some tassels adding on to the 3 points. But yeah, it's quite a nice mindless one, because obviously with it being garter, it is just knit each row backwards and forwards, and then some like knit 2 together yarn over patterning for the colour bands. But yeah, that's working up really nicely. So the pattern was for a 3.5mm needle, and I ended up going up to a 3.75, and I think yeah that's about right, because I feel if I did used a bigger needle it'd just be too loose for what you're wanting. So yeah, I think that's worked out perfectly. And this is living in this project bag. It's got origami cranes on it. I don't know, oh no it does say. And that is from the Woolly Tangle. That's focusing. And I got this as a gift from my mother-in-law for one Christmas. And the cranes are significant. When me and my husband got married, I folded over 1,000 origami cranes out of like poem book pages in different colours, and had a crane curtain at the wedding, because I believe in Japanese culture it's supposed to be good luck if you fold 1,000 cranes. So that's what I did, and then that's why, yeah, I got that bag. It's a nice drawstring bag. Oh, okay, and then my next work in progress, which is one that I've cast on since last time and hadn't mentioned it, the Laura from the Lonely Knitter, she is doing a mini skein set each month throughout the year. One month is Disney inspired, the next month is Marvel inspired, and the very first one in January was Beauty and the Beast. Now if anybody who knows me, Beauty and the Beast is my Disney princess, or like I used to watch it on repeat when I was younger, and so I couldn't not get this yarn set. So I'm knitting a pair of Scrappy-esque socks out of them, and I'm knitting them concurrently. So this is, I think this one's 1 stripe ahead of the other one, and I cast on 64 stitches, and I've done a 2x2 rib cuff for 20 rounds on 2.25mm needles, and then I do 4 rounds per colour, so that'll work out, because I like a 60 round leg, so I need, I believe, about 15 rows of colour before I start the heel and then onto the foot. Yeah, so that's really nice. I'll show you the yarns individually. So the cuff and the toes and the heel will all be in the Filcolana Arvetta, the off-white colour. And then the first colour is this one. I think that's from the scene when they're outside in the snow having a snowball fight, and Belle's dress. Colour 2 is this one. It's a nice neutral beigey pinky colour. I can't decide if that's library inspired or Mrs. Potts. The next one is this blue and dark speckle. That I've not figured out who that one is either. And then I think everyone who knows Beauty and the Beast knows that this is Belle's ballroom gown. And then the final one is this one, which I think is the dress that she wears in the beginning, in the provincial town. Yeah, so that's that one. When it comes to the toe, I will convert to a 32-inch needle and do magic loop, as I can't do those on 9-inch circulars. That's impossible for me. And that's just a plain vanilla sock, just changing colours every 4 rows. Yeah, so that's that one. My next one is the baby blanket I'm making for our nephew that's due in July. This is the only crochet one I have at the moment. This is I have so far, and it's Tunisian crochet, and it's got the borders a honeycomb texture, and then the middle bit is just a standard stitch Tunisian crochet. So this is made using standard stitch and Tunisian pearl stitch, alternating backwards and forwards and then swapping on the next row, a bit like moss stitch but in the Tunisian one, and it makes a nice honeycomb pattern. And that pattern is the Elmore blanket, and it's by TL Yarn Crafts. Yeah, I found it on Ravelry, which they do have a paid for version on Ravelry, but they also have a link to her blog where you can get the pattern for free. The only difference is I've not chained on as many as the pattern suggests, because the pattern's for a square blanket and I prefer rectangular blankets. I don't know why. So yeah, this is the yarn I'm using. It's the Bambino one, DK, just in a pale grey colour. Yeah, and I'm using the hook recommended, which is a 6mm hook. And I was working on this on Friday. BBC Radio Derby were holding an event at the Velodrome in Derby, and I went with a friend and her daughter, and it was to try and break the Guinness World Record for the most amount of people simultaneously crocheting for 15 minutes in one room. And I think the record for that before was 604 people, and we actually got 960. So yeah, I'm part of the Guinness World Record breakers, which is really surreal. But yeah, fun little anecdote to add into the blanket. Yeah, so that is that blanket. So that's it for yarny type works in progress, but I will show you my embroidery, although it's not the best because I've never done this before, so it's a bit wonky in places. I'm going to show you. It was a kit that my husband got me for Christmas off of Etsy. Let me just... You get given a little booklet with all of the different types of stitching. And here's the boho. And then this is the pattern that you get with it. Show it too much, although there's not a lot on the pattern. Obviously I've never done embroidery before, so I don't know how standard that is for embroidery patterns, but yeah, it took some figuring out, and I'm just highlighting the bits that I've already done. And then this is what I have so far. Yeah. So it comes with the blue printed on, so you know where you're going. And I'm assuming that will wash away once I've finished. But yeah, look at the state of that. Yeah, so it is enjoyable, but like I say, it's something that you have to have a good quality of light to be able to see what you're doing, and you've got to concentrate on it, whereas with knitting, because I have been doing it so long, I can just knit away and not worry about it too much unless I'm following a pattern. But that's just not something I can just let go. Yeah, so that's it for works in progress today. I had one yarn acquisition this week, and that was because I obviously signed up to the Woolly Knit newsletter when I'd got this, and an email came through that you could get 2 sock yarn cones and a sock pattern for £15, and the sock yarn cones are 200 grams each, so that's 400 grams of yarn for £15 plus a pattern, and I thought that was a bit too good to miss out on. However, I'm not making socks with them, that's not the plan. The plan is to make a jumper for my youngest Joseph, and I'm going to be striping the 2 together. So these are the ones that I've picked. And this one is forest green, and this one is copper brown. So green is his favourite colour, and then foxes are his favourite animal, and I feel like this is a very foxy colour. But yeah, I thought with them being 9% wool, it's supposed to be 90% merino wool and 10% nylon, that they probably wouldn't hold up as well for socks as the normal kind, because there's not as much nylon. I mean, I don't know, I've never made socks from them, they might be perfectly fine, but we'll see. I imagine there'll be some left over for a jumper for him, and then I'll make some socks out of the leftover. But yeah, I'm planning on doing a flax light with these striped, but I don't know when I'm going to do that, because I'm not sure if there's any point starting it now that it's starting to get a lot milder and he's not going to wear them, because he doesn't like to wear a lot of clothes, he gets hot very easily, or wait until about September time and then make it then, because he's also growing very fast at the minute, and I don't want to put all that effort into making him a jumper and then already he's grown out of it. But yeah, so that's that one, and I think that's all I have to share with you today. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a lovely week ahead, and hopefully I will see you guys next week. Take care, thank you, bye.